Hello everybody, welcome to part 2 of the poor man's motherboard build on your modifications of the Hasbro 84 Proton pack. In the last video I showed you how to cut this motherboard out with plastic glass, acrylic plastic glass. You can get this at Home Depot, Lowe's, and you just trace it around the pack, make your cuts. And in the last video in part 1, check that out, I'll show you how we did that. Now in this video, I've already kind of started this off camera, but after you do your cuts, all the edges are real jagged and everything. Depending on what you use to cut this with, I use my little Dremel tool. I'm just more comfortable with using that. So it leaves a lot of when you use that, it melts the plastic, and then all those little bits and pieces that are melted become real hard, and they're just stuck onto the pack. So a lot of that you can get off with your fingers. After I get all that off, I go over all the edges with a sander. I just use a little block sander like this, and you just get the edges real good on both sides, and then I go right up the middle on the edge like that as well to get all that smoothed out. You know, there's no jagged edges anymore. And then I haven't done it yet, but I'm also going to do a nice sand over the entire surface on both sides, so that when we paint this thing, the paint will have something to grab onto and it won't just chip right off. Before I do that though, I want to answer a quick question that I got. I had a couple comments asking, well, how is this flimsy thing going to hold the pack? It doesn't hold the pack. This doesn't hold any weight at all. We're not replacing this poor man's motherboard. Is not a replacement for the stock motherboard. This is technically just a cover over the stock motherboard. So it just goes over like this, guys. And once it's all painted, satin black, it matches the pack. It looks like a real motherboard is on here. The only way you would notice that it's not a real motherboard like the movie is that you can still see the lip, this thick lip of the stock motherboard on the sides here. So yeah, this does not replace the stock motherboard. Now if you want something that replaces the stock motherboard, you're gonna have to spend about $145 to $200 to get one. I know Redman Studios builds really great ones. They're movie accurate, they're awesome. Those ones completely replace the stock motherboard. I don't know what modifications comes with that. I'm sure there's some. But yeah, so look into that. Go to Redman Studios online. They sell $200 ones that are aluminum, legit, awesome. But this is another option for someone who doesn't have $200 to spend on the motherboard. This costs 25 bucks, guys, 30 with paint. $30, you can have a motherboard that looks like a real motherboard, and it covers up this ugly one. And I did it on my Afterlife pack. I was very happy with it. I didn't even have to go to the Redman Studios and get theirs. I still might with this one. I ain't gonna lie, I might later down the road when I get some extra funds, maybe go down that route. But for now, I want to show you guys this way because this is a awesome way to do it, way cheaper, and I think it gets the job done. So now, other than sanding this thing, what we need to do, what holds this thing on, guys, is the actual Alice frame. The screws for the Alice frame is what holds this on. So what we need to do is we need to circle around all the circles where the screws that go into that hold the Alice frame on. So the screws will go, and then we're gonna trace around all the circles, and then we're gonna drill those holes out so the screws can go through this plastic glass here. And then once you tighten down those screws for the Alice frame, it tightens down on this, and this doesn't move. So what you need to do is you need to, after you get this cut out, you do all your sanding, at least on the edges. Then you need to place it right where you need it, right where you want it on the pack. Get it perfect where you want it. And then once you get it perfect, make sure it doesn't move. And then we're gonna circle just around all of the screw holes for the motherboard here. All right, so you got 2 up here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and then these big ones down here. Okay, so there's a lot of holes that you need to drill. Now the only thing with this plastic glass here is it can crack easily. Okay, so you want to go very slow. Now, to be honest with you, I'm not sure what type of bit would be best for this. I guarantee there's a certain type of bit that you probably should be using for this, so look that up. I might actually, after this video, I might try to look that up and maybe leave it in the description. I'm probably going to be using just my good old wood drill bits, but go really, really slow. Be careful, and you should be fine. So yeah, let me get this exactly where I want it. I'm going to go ahead and trace all the holes I need, and then we're going to go drill some holes. So to me, the hardest part is just making sure you get this exactly how you want it before you do those holes. Because once those holes are traced, that's where they're going to be, right? So you're not really going to be able to change that later. All right, so I got mine where I want it. Make sure it doesn't move on you. I'm just going to go trace right over these holes where those screws are going to go in. Just like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you definitely want to get it as close as perfect as possible. You don't want these holes, to be too big. You want them to be tight, so when the screw goes in the hole, there's not a lot of wiggle room. If there's a whole lot of wiggle room, this thing might move a little bit on you. So you do want the holes to be as tight as possible so that there's no room for this motherboard to be wiggling around on you. Now, when you tighten down the screws on the Alice frame, especially if you have those spacers in there, the spacer and then the aluminum or metal bracket that goes on there, then the screws, the spacers are going to hold this tight down, and it's really not going to want to move anywhere. Now, this is kind of hard to do and be steady because I don't want to put my hand down on the plastic here, because when I go to move it, it'll end up moving the whole plastic on the pack. So you got to keep your hand up like this and try to do it like that so you're not moving the plastic. Okay, let's see. Do I got all of them on here? Boom, 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 boom. Make sure you have all of them before you move it. And we look like we are good. All right, so now you can see where I'm going to be drilling all those holes for the Alice frame brackets. All right, guys, I'm back in my garage where it's 120 degrees. So I want to try to make this quick. If you guys saw my last video, I was drenched in sweat after cutting this out. I mean, drenched. So, got a towel this time. I'm going to try to make this quick as possible because I want to get the hell out of here. I can't even breathe. Now, so what I did is I ended up just doing one of these folding tables, getting a piece of scrap wood on here, and I'm just going to go ahead and drill right through the wood. I think that's going to help support the plastic a little bit better, maybe stop it from cracking, chances of it cracking. Now, just goes, again, there might be drill bits that work a hell of a lot better with this plastic. I'm not aware of any, but I'm sure there are. I'm sure someone will leave a comment to tell you what bit you should be using to cut this plastic glass with. I'm just going to try an old wood one and just hope for the best. I would do it like I'm doing, put a piece of wood underneath, help support it, go real slow. Once you get all the way through, it's going to pull this up onto the drill bit. So all you got to do after that is just kind of hold it down and slowly back the drill bit out, and you should be good. I'm going to go ahead and knock these out because I am hot as hell. Now, if these aren't perfect, if you didn't measure perfectly, like when you trace the hole or when you put the drill in, you're a little off center or whatever, you're going to have to, you might have to, when you go to put the Alice frame on and put the screws in, you might have to make these holes a little bigger on one side or whatever. You might have to adjust it basically. So just keep that in mind. That's why every little thing you do helps. That's why tracing it perfectly helps. Getting the drill right in the center of the circle that you traced helps. it all kind of connects to help give you a better chance of you not having to modify it later or make the hole a little bigger or make one side of the hole move a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, just keep that in mind as well. See, so as soon as it came up on me, I slowed down. Now I'm gonna back it up, hold it in place, and slowly let the glass fall back down off the bit. When you push down on the glass, don't like force it off of the bit. Just put enough pressure down to where it will twist back down off the bit. That way you're not putting any stress on the plastic itself. And you're gonna have these jagged edges on the inner part, on the other side of where you drilled. There are gonna be a lot of jagged edges. So that you're gonna take care of that when you do the hose sanding. When you sand down the whole surface, you'll get rid of those. Just go real slow. Let it come up. Let it come up and let it twist a little bit. You know, just kind of have your body there. Let it hit your body a little bit. But basically the point is let this be free. Let it do what it wants to do. That way you're not putting stress on the plastic and cracking it. Because I'm telling you, this will crack if you do this wrong. So again, go slow. Let it come up. As soon as it comes up the bit, then just reverse the bit. You slowly back it out as this comes back down off the bit. I can't stress that enough. So we have all of our holes drilled out for the Alice frame brackets there. Now again, when you go to put the Alice frame on, chances are you might have to make some of these holes a little bigger, might have to adjust them a little bit. One might be a little bit too far to the right or too far to the left. So you might have to just take like a little tiny knife or whatever and kind of just make that a little bigger. Or you could try to do it with a smaller drill bit and kind of, you know, spin the bit in there and move it to the side and try to widen it out or whatever. But yeah, chances are, depending on how well you did the drilling, how well you did the tracing and everything, you might have to adjust these just slightly when you go to actually put your Alice frame on. So just keep that in mind. All right, guys, back in my office with my freshly drilled motherboard here. And we're going to, again, I did not sand this yet. So on the underside, like if you drill in this way, all the holes on this side is going to be real rough and have these pegs sticking out or whatever. So I didn't sand this yet, but we got to sand all that down, which we have to do anyways because we have to sand both surfaces to make sure the paint sticks. So you can now see all the holes I drilled out are not perfectly aligned, but they will be perfectly aligned with those holes there. So now you can screw in your Alice frame. So like I said, at this point, sand both sides of these and get those those holes smooth, get the whole surface gritty for paint. Paint this thing up, throw your Alice frame on, and you're good to go, guys. All right, guys, so I got all my sanding done. I just want to show you what it kind of looks like when you're done sanding. I sanded both surfaces, got all the little peaks off of these holes all sanded down and smooth. I used this sanding sponge right here. It is 320 grade or grit. That's really fine sandpaper. You could use 220 as well. That would work just as fine. And then what I did was I cleaned it up. I got all the dust off, and then I wiped it down with rubbing alcohol. That will ensure that this is super clean for you to spray paint over it, and that spray paint will grip onto it, have something to clean to, and you should be good to go. So I'm gonna have to wait, unfortunately, to paint this for a few days because it's just too hot and humid here in Michigan right now. I don't want to ruin this thing. It was too much work to ruin it with paint. So I'm gonna wait until the temperatures are a little bit ideal for this. But for you guys, it's gonna be instant. All right, guys, so I got my poor man's motherboard painted. I used a satin black satin is really what they used on these packs in the movies. So, yep. So I sprayed it down with satin black. I did both sides. Of course, that was after sanding everything. As you can see, got the holes perfectly aligned to put on the Alice frame, and the spacers and the brackets to do that. And just to give you an idea, kind of what it will look like. It'd be something like that. And if you ask me, that looks 1,000,000 times better than having this motherboard exposed. I think it looks so much better. Again, you're still gonna see this part of the motherboard, which stinks, you know, this lip all around. Because this really should go straight down to here. But again, this is a kind of easy way, definitely a cheap way of having a way more movie accurate motherboard on your pack, and it looks way better. And again, you won't see any of these holes because those are going to be covered up with the spacers and the brackets and everything. So yeah, as soon as I get my hardware in for this, I will make a video on that. And then I'm still waiting on my iron arm and then weathering, guys, and that is it. That we are that close to being done with this pack. So I'm going to be weathering. This is a brand new Alice frame, brand new pads. I'm going to be weathering all of this to make it look used, at least as used as it was in the first movie. Definitely want to do some weathering all around. So I'll try to do some videos on those. That might be a little bit more difficult to show you kind of what I do. But I'll do my best. And yeah, I think it looks really good, guys. I am pretty excited. I feel like the paint came out a little lighter than I wanted it to. And I'm pretty sure that's because, remember I said I wanted to wait a few days? Well, I'm a very impatient person. So I ended up waiting till it was late out. But the temperature was dropping, but the humidity was rising at the same time. So it was still too humid and too hot to paint, but I decided to do it anyways. And I think when you do that, it gives it more like a dusty kind of look. Like this looks a little bit more... In person, it looks way better. It definitely looks way better in person, but it's still not as like... It doesn't match this as much as I thought it was going to. But I'm pretty sure that is because, first of all, I have a shining light on it. But second of all, I think it was because it was too hot and humid. So I may go ahead and repaint this. We'll see. I mean, I'm happy with it, but it looks a little light than it should. So, but other than that, that's it, guys. So there's your poor man's motherboard. If you don't want to spend $200 on one, I'm replacing the stock one. This is an awesome way to cover up the stock one. It looks like a real motherboard from all angles. Yeah, guys. So I also bought some screws. You know, there's supposed to be like 3 rivets here. There's supposed to be 2 screws here, 2 over here. You know, those are the screws on the motherboard that's actually holding the motherboard on the pack in real life. Like in the movie, that's how it really is. So I might actually put some screws in this just for looks wise. You know, just like we did with all the other screws, you know, just to make it more movie accurate. So I'm probably going to add those screws in this motherboard as well. So, all right, guys, I'm rambling. I got to stop myself when I start rambling. Hope you guys have a great one. Keep modding, keep busting, take care of one another, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.